Hello everyone and welcome to PendulumEdu, and here in this session we are going to have a new set of words for you with this fresh article for today. So let's begin with the discussion for today. The article head as Brawling in Cleveland on Trump-Biden debates. Now we're all aware of the debate that took place between these two candidates for the US presidential, right? So now when this headline is given us, it's Brawling in Cleveland, and that's the name of a place, so we're all aware of it, so not a problem. But why the writer has stated that there was brawling in Cleveland? Brawling here, it's used as a noun. It can be used as a verb as well. It means fight or argue. Okay, fight or argue. एक तरीके से that is विवाद करना या फिर कोई किसी तरीके का विवाद. Okay, now both these, if you have watched or listened to this debate, then you must have seen and observed that both the candidates were after each other's life, right? They were arguing. They were not making logical statements, but there were arguments that were based on even personal accusations were there. So that was a kind of fight or an argument that they had instead of a debate. Trump and Biden missed a chance to showcase policies in the first debate. Showcase policies, and now they missed this opportunity. They missed the opportunity to showcase. Showcase is a verb which means to display or exhibit. कहते हैं ना प्रदर्शन करना, so दर्शाना. So what did they miss? They missed the opportunity given to them in the first debate to come up with, to display or to discuss the policies that they would bring in or bring up. Okay, when it was time for US President Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger for the 2020 election, former Vice President Joe Biden, to go toe-to-toe in the first ever presidential debate. Toe-to-toe is a phrase which means face-to-face interaction, or you can say an argument, or not just argument, I would say a discussion, confrontation. Okay, that is, कहते हैं ना एक कांटे की टक्कर. Okay, that is a toe-to-toe. So when it was time for both of them, that is Donald Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden, who's a former vice president, to go toe-to-toe in the first ever presidential debate, there was no expectation that the much anticipated event would showcase bipartisan bonhomie or statesman-like conduct. Bipartisan bonhomie. Now bonhomie, I would first explain you bonhomie. Bonhomie is a noun subject which means cheerfulness or excitement and cheerfulness. That's bon. Or someone who is very happy, okay, and excited. Now bipartisan. So bipartisan is an adjective which means involving or relating to two parties. So there were two parties like Republican and Democrats. So we got to see, or we got to experience this bipartisan bonhomie. Both the sides, they were extremely excited, cheerful, but they were like statesmen. Like there was no expectation that they would be doing like this. They see much anticipated event, that is much awaited event. So in this, people had not at all expected this kind of behavior or this kind of their like presentation of their own in front of the public. And yet, the low bar of uncivility on display. Uncivility is incivility, which means rudeness or uncultured behavior. ओके एक तरीके से जो अनकल्चर्ड बार्बेरिक बिहेवियर था, जो अनसिविलिटी थी जो डिस्प्ले की गई, बिकॉज they were just accusing each other of one or the other thing. They were not coming up with what would they do in future for the nation. Ungirded by hostility and a lack of mutual respect. Undergirded means protected. Undergird is a verb which means to protect. It is like to bachana khud ko. Okay, so undergirded by hostility. तो इसको जो अनसिविलिटी थी, जो लाइक इनका जो एटीट्यूड था, रूड वाला एटीट्यूड था, जो हार्श बिहेवियर था उनका, जो कठोर तरीके से जिस तरीके से वो प्रेजेंट कर रहे थे खुद को, उसके साथ साथ और क्या था, हॉस्टिलिटी थी. ओके, दैट इज अनफ्रेंडलीनेस एंड लैक ऑफ म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट. एक दूसरे के लिए बिल्कुल भी रिस्पेक्ट नहीं थी. मेड द इवेंट एट केस वेस्टर्न रिजर्व यूनिवर्सिटी इन क्लीवलैंड, ओहियो, a disturbing spectacle. So where did this debate take place? Now this is important with current affairs perspective. Please make a note of it. Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, and it was a disturbing spectacle. Now this is a phrase, a disturbing spectacle. Why am I saying? See, there's nothing like I would say alien about the phrase used here. It's not an idiom or something. There's no hidden meaning. It's a clear, simple statement that it's a disturbing spectacle, which means एक ऐसा दृश्य जो बहुत ही disturbing था, जिसे देखकर लोगों को weird लगा, awkward लगा. Almost throughout the 90-minute extravaganza of cognitive disconnect. Cognitive is an adjective which means related to cognition or mental activities, like something related to knowledge. Okay, that is cognitive. Okay, अभी ये क्या था, cognitive disconnect. There was nothing that they were talking of knowledge or any purpose. The two candidates interrupted each other, name called, and generally made obvious their disdain for the other. Disdain is disrespect. It's a noun. It means disrespect. So एक दूसरे के लिए जो उनके मन में घृणा है वो उन्होंने साफ साफ दर्शाई. बिल्कुल, they were name calling each other, like even Mr. Biden, he told Trump to just shut up. So there were things that were disturbing. Nobody expected out of these two people that they would be presenting themselves in this particular way. Moving ahead, it has been said a low point for Mr. Trump was when he willfully sidestepped. Willfully is an adverb which means he deliberately, जानबूझकर, okay, he deliberately sidestepped a passionate defense by Mr. Biden of his late son Bill to seek into a vector of proven lines about Mr. Biden's other son Hunter and his business dealings in Russia and Ukraine. Now, what was the low point for Mr. Trump? This was the low point for Mr. Trump when he deliberately sidestepped a passionate defense by Mr. Biden of his late son. Now, when Mr. Biden took this defense in sort of, he took it in sort of defense when it came to his late son Bill, okay, and also came to his other son, that is Hunter. So when he came up with a defense, or you can say to sympathize, to gain sympathy probably, then Mr. Trump, he deliberately sidestepped. Okay, he decided to deliberately move out. Similarly, Mr. Biden hardly covered himself in glory when he said to Mr. Trump, "Will you shut up, man?" So even here, if you see Mr. Trump, what he did, he deliberately came up with all these personal accusations, Mr. Trump, related to Mr. Biden's family. Also, If we talk of Mr. Bidden, he also couldn't maintain his dignity, and he asked Mr. Trump to just shut up, like, will you shut up, man? So all of these things that are coming up, like, he referred to him as a clown, a liar, and a racist. While many might empathize with Mr. Biden's sentiments in this context, given Mr. Trump's record on issues of race, his personal finances and taxes, and his penchant for indulging in acerbic bombast, some Democrats might have hoped that Mr. Biden would hold himself to a higher standard. Now, Mr. Trump, he accused him of many things. He took a lot of things into consideration or into statements. We all know Mr. Trump talking of issues of race, like personal finances and taxes, and also about his personal sentiments were being hit. We're talking about Mr. Biden. So if Mr. Trump has done all this, so there was some of the hope that few of the Democrats were hoping that Mr. Biden would come up with something like a gentleman's response or something, but nothing like that happened. Rather, he came up with a statement as if, will you shut up? So this didn't, I would say, dignify or support his dignity, but it actually degraded it. The phrases, I would say the choice of words was inappropriate by both these men. Okay, I have to explain you these the meanings here. And his penchant. Now, penchant is a noun. Okay, indulging in acerbic bombast. Acerbic is an adjective. So we have to know all this. Acerbic is something that is highly sharp. Okay, sharp, बहुत ही intense. Okay. So bombast में इनका indulge थे वो. Penchant is a noun which means a strong liking for something, a strong liking. So I'm going to write it here. Penchant, it's a noun which means liking or inclination, okay, towards something. झुकाव कहते हैं ना एक किसी चीज की तरफ. That is. So for indulging in acerbic bombast, some Democrats might have hoped that Mr. Biden would have, I told you, he would have held himself, have held himself to a bit of higher standard, but he couldn't. But he didn't, I must say. One thing, the verbal brawling, we did brawl again, the argument, the fight, made clear is that two leaders will likely offer radically different policy visions. In a sense, making the choice between them a straightforward one on November 3, election day. Now, what has been stated as the crux is that from the debate, it's clear that both of them would have different policy visions. Like they have opposite visions, completely opposite. Mr. Trump dug his heels in on choosing a right-leaning candidate for his vacant seat in the US Supreme Court after the passing of liberal stalwart Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We know that this lady, she has just passed away, I guess 10 to 15 days back. So stalwart is an adjective used to express her personality, that is, she was loyal and she was abiding, okay. बहुत ही ईमानदार. She was. So both of them were asked for their suggestions for Supreme Court candidates, and both of them have suggested the same, and they were asked like why their suggestions or why the candidate they have picked is appropriate. So they were asked about this as well in the debate. Now, he refused to label a known white supremacist gang as racist. He refused to label a known white supremacist gang as racist. So he refused to do this. Now, when it comes to white supremacies, so and the same point of time when he selected this candidate for the Supreme Court's candidature, he stated that white supremacists, he ignored, or I would say he refused or rejected to consider or to label these white supremacists as, or the gang as rapists in terms of the constitution. Moving ahead, it has been said he stood his ground on his intention to dismember the Affordable Care Act passed by former President Barack Obama when Mr. Biden was his deputy. So there's ACA, that is Affordable Care Act for the people, right, their health care provision. So he decided to dismember, that is, he decided to bring it to an end by killing off the individual mandate. There was one mandate of the law procedure that has been given, so he decided to kill it off. On every policy of serious consequence of the American middle class, whether in the realms of healthcare and COVID-19 response, immigration, job creation, clean energy, or women's reproductive rights, Mr. Trump defended the very same approach he has followed for the past 3.5 years. Now, they say that whether you talk about healthcare, you talk about immigration, you talk about rights of people, you talk about job creation, clean energy, whatever, he has stuck to his own ways of coming up with things like what he has done in the past 3.5 years. He has, like, you must have heard in the debates that they kept on saying that he has no plans. So any plan that he comes up with, there's no implementation of the plan. So that is again a point to consider. And yet his bungling is a noun process, which means awkward or chaotic way of doing something. जब हम कोई चीज़ जल्दबाजी में करते हैं, हेल्टर स्केल्टर, राइट, जल्दबाजी में, तो वो गड़बड़ हो जाता है, जल्दबाजी. ओके. Ambiguous, that is unclear. Ambiguous is an adjective जिसका मतलब होता है जो कि स्पष्ट ना हो. Pandemic response speaks for itself, as does his disastrous record on saving jobs in its wake, and his uncompromisingly harsh attack on immigration. Mr. Biden's policy agenda might be an echo of the Obama years, reflecting traditional mainstream Democratic Party values that some Americans have grown to resent. Resent means dislike. Okay, this is a verb. So there are a few things that, though if you talk about Mr. Trump, there are many setbacks and drawbacks, okay, but on the other hand, if you have a look at Mr. Biden, though his policies remind every American of the old years, that is the Obama years, and they were the traditional values and the policies that he's talking about, but these are the policies and values that most of the Americans now resent, like they don't like it, they dislike it. So, like, you don't know who is going to win. Yet, if he can convince the American people not of any grand liberal vision, but simply that he will better Mr. Trump's low performance bar, this election might be Mr. Biden's to lose. Now, if in case he convinces people, he convinces the Americans that nothing big to convince or nothing big to promise, huge promises to be made, no. It is suggested that if he convinces people that he would be better in terms of, or he would better the situation at present wherein Mr. Trump has been ruling, if he tries to make it better, and then also there are chances that he could win. So this is the entire article about the Trump and Biden debate. Do listen to this debate, this clip of 1.5 hours or like a little bit less, but it's good to know what is happening, what has happened, and if you first listen to it and then come to it, or if you go through the article and then listen to the debate, anyways it will work out for you. Look for it, notice the words in the video that you do, comment, let us know, okay, the words that you saw there and the words that you have learned here in this article. The list of the words that we've discussed just now are there on the site, and the link is in the description below. Go click on the link, get the list of the words and start practicing these words. Okay, I will see you in the next session soon with yet another article. Till then, I wish you all happy learning. Keep learning and growing, learners. Thank you so much.